So I come from a foodie family, in the original sense of the word. The kitchen was always the busiest room in our house, and food was an integral part of our family life. So much so that at 103 years old, my great-grandmother's primary concern was ensuring that I knew the family's secret recipes well enough so they would live on past her time with us. So it's not surprising that I have a career related to food, although it took some time getting here. Bear with me as my fishtail turns into a food story. I originally started working as an environmental attorney on oceans and fish. And then fish work over time transformed into working on fishing, and then seafood. And there I was with a career on something I thought I knew a lot about, food. Working on food inevitably leads to discussions about where food comes from. And that was really the beginning of my education about the US food system. And what I learned was startling. I learned that our seafood doesn't always come from the sea or a nearby water body. I learned that in the United States, we import about 86% of the seafood we eat here. Last year, that translated to about 4.2 billion pounds of fish. Then I learned that about half of that is farm-raised, much under such deplorable conditions because of lax or non-existent health, safety, labor, and environmental standards in the places the fish are grown. Then I learned that our inspection rate here on that imported seafood is less than 2%. That means that most of the fish on our plates hasn't been inspected for things like illegal chemicals, antibiotics, and filth. Mouse, rat, human hair, and insects. As consumers have gotten more savvy, so has their requests increased for safe, clean, local seafood. And so our federal government thought it would be a good idea to start growing more of the fish we eat here in the United States instead of importing it. Unfortunately, what they suggested is growing fish in giant floating cages out in the open ocean. The global experience with ocean fish farming has been problematic. It's associated with a number of concerns: habitat damage, water pollution, marine wildlife behavior alterations, increase in infections, diseases, parasites, and a whole host of other health problems for humans and the environment. And I thought, we farm almost everything we eat here. Can't we sustainably raise fish? So this led to a lot of discussions with experts and research. And then we found recirculating aquaculture. And then we found that that's just one type of recirculating farm. And then we found that recirculating farms can contribute to a healthy food culture here in the United States. First, what's a recirculating farm? I get that question often. Recirculating farms use clean, recycled water in place of soil to grow food. They can grow plants through recirculating hydroponics, fish through recirculating aquaculture, and fish and plants together through aquaponics. How do these farms work? Recirculating farms come in all different shapes, sizes, styles, but generally speaking, they have one common theme: recycled water. So, for example, in an aquaponic farm, fish in tanks create nutrients, and the nutrient-filled water is cycled to the plant beds, where the plants absorb those nutrients that they need to grow, and the water's cleaned, and that clean water cycles back to the fish tanks, ready for reuse. Is this happening in the United States today? Absolutely. We have been in contact with over 200 recirculating commercial farms operating throughout the country, and that's not including all the people that are doing it in their homes these days. In fact, the very first farm I visited is about an hour from here in Mount Kisco, New York. Cabbage Hill Farm Foundation has a traditional soil-based farm. They also raise animals, and they run an aquaponic greenhouse that grows tilapia, trout, and a variety of vegetables, fruits, plant, herbs, and flowers. Also, Bright Farms here in New York has a project building hydroponic greenhouses in association with supermarkets to help provide more local, fresh food. New Orleans, Louisiana is embracing recirculating farming. After being thrashed by Hurricane Katrina, and then the Gulf of Mexico covered in oil, which is a primary source of seafood, they have a real lack of healthy, fresh food there. New Orleans also has one of the highest obesity and poverty rates in the country, well above the national averages. And last year, that made them one of the worst food deserts in the country. So Recirculating Farms is helping to address all these issues and more. Here's how. First, and perhaps most interestingly, Recirculating Farms are closed-loop systems. This means things in the farms don't get out, and things outside the farm have a harder time getting in. So they can operate without chemicals and antibiotics, growing more natural food. Recirculating farms also do a really great job of reusing waste, like when plants absorb nutrients from fish water, or when you take solids from the system and use them on traditionally soil-grown plants as fertilizer. One of the most interesting things about recirculating farms is that they don't need to be connected to natural water bodies for filling or drainage. And so this means they can be located just about anywhere, indoors, outside, in a hot climate, in a cold climate, near the coast, inland. And so these farms can be put in any community. That means food is being grown in the place where it's being used, cutting down on fuel for shipping and refrigeration, and also lowering costs for the farm. These savings can be passed on to consumers, making good food more affordable. Recirculating farms are also incredibly water efficient. They can reuse up to 99% of the water in the system, only replacing what's lost to evaporation or waste removal. Some farms even rely on catching rainwater to top off the system. Recirculating farms are also amazingly energy efficient. They can rely on solar, wind, geothermal power. Some farms are even being built so interestingly that they're recycling other materials for energy. For example, using oil from restaurants to power a furnace, or taking fish waste from a system and turning it into methane gas to operate a generator that helps power the farm. The unique design of recirculating farms also makes them incredibly space efficient. They can be built up or out or in odd-shaped spaces or small spaces, and especially in places where soil is contaminated or paved. And so this makes them great for an urban environment where usable space might not be all in one place or available for large tracts of growing. They're also great in rural lands where they can have larger vegetable beds or larger tanks. This means that they're fairly useful in most communities anywhere in the country. Truly local, healthy, fresh food, grown in an eco-friendly way. Recirculating farms are also a source of green jobs. At a time when we're at over 9% unemployment rate, and 1 in 6 people are struggling to buy food, recirculating farms present an innovative opportunity to take more control of our food system and also rebuild our economy on natural, green, sustainable business. Clean, safe, local food in any community nationwide. That sounds great to me, and I hope you all help us make it happen so we, our families, communities, and country can change the way we eat. Thank you.